The Fight Show on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Get up to a $1,000 deposit match when you sign up at UnderdogFantasy.com and use the promo code SGPN. That's UnderdogFantasy.com and the promo code SGPN.
First things first, I don't hate you. I don't even dislike you. I like you. I like you more than anyone you've ever shared a locker room with, that's for sure. I hate this idea of you, this idea that you're the best in the world. You're not. I'm the greatest of all time. You're better than me at one thing. You're the best bullshitter in the world. Oh no, kiddos. John Cena just dropped a curse word. That means the show is completely off the rails. Hey, Stu, shoot this. Hey, I'm breaking the fourth wall. The truth is, Punk, I'm jealous of you. I am jealous that you have conned these people into believing the myth that you're the best in the world. They chant for you. Hell, when you come out, they sing to you. But they don't believe a goddamn word you say. Because you change your values as much as I change my t-shirts. You're just a loudmouth opportunist who will step on the necks of people who actually work hard if it gets you ahead. Where's another camera? Hey, Claudio Castagnoli. Hey, Nick Nemeth. Hey, Matt Cardona, how you guys doing? Oh yeah, we're still on, baby. He's heating up. He's on fire. And there's nobody back there that's gonna cut my mic to save your ass, because I'm your only friend. Remember who gave you the stage for your pipe bomb, pal. And what have you done with it since then, huh? You've just regurgitated the same 5 microphone moves of doom. You're promo potato salad, pal. Hey, you're no longer the voice of the voiceless. You're a friggin' millionaire. Despite yourself. You're not Punk, you're a capitalist. And you're not against TKO, dude. You are Mr. TKO. Because they knocked your balls technically off your body. Your tweets are strong. Your actions are weak. And in Saudi Arabia, you're gonna face some loud music when I finally prove to the world that each and every day, day in, day out, no days off for 25 years, I have been the greatest of all time. See, they know. And they know that you were the best in the world. for 7 minutes 14 years ago. And if after Night of Champions, you're still delusional enough to believe that you're the best in the world, well, I guess it's a small world after all. You're welcome, Grand Rapids.
So that was John Cena ripping into CM Punk, delivering the 2025 version of the pipe bomb, mirroring CM Punk's 2011 version of the pipe bomb, all to set up tomorrow's main event clash for WWE Night of Champions, which we are going to cover here on the show. First, let me take a quick second out to talk about the biggest letdown and hypocrite in the history of wrestling, which is, of course, CM Punk. For years, people wanted Punk back, and for years, they speculated on whether Vince McMahon would do it. And if he did do it, would he pull the trigger on making Punk the face of the company? Would he be able to forgive and forget and give Punk a monster push? And would Punk be happy with his booking in WWE? Well, Vince McMahon has had multiple fallings out and has always brought those people back. We're talking about Hulk Hogan. We're talking about Bret the Hitman Hart. We're talking about the Ultimate Warrior. We're even talking about Stone Cold Steve Austin. So I felt like it could have happened. I always felt like it could have happened. I always felt like CM Punk could have come back into the fold and Vince McMahon would have booked him appropriately. Maybe not as the face of the company, but his booking would have been strong. I think a whole lot stronger than this. So while Triple H has this reputation of being this calmer, more sensible version of Vince McMahon, I think this has been an absolute masterclass by Triple H in humbling this prick, CM Punk, in cutting off his balls and CM Punk not even realizing what Triple H has been doing. And this promo for me was the tip of the iceberg because Cena, a heel, absolutely annihilated Punk, the prick, by stating absolute facts about what an absolute hypocrite this guy was and how he stood for absolutely nothing. Back in 2011, CM Punk genuinely was the voice of the voiceless. He was someone that we got behind, much like fans got behind the likes of Rob Van Dam and Daniel Bryan and Mr. Kennedy because, and others as well, that I'm probably missing out, because we felt like that the company was being hijacked by the John Cena push. This prototype type of character that Vince McMahon continuously searched for and continuously pushed to the forefront of his company was something that fans had grown sick of by 2011, and we were hungry for something else. We'd seen Mr. Kennedy come and go. We'd seen RVD come and go. And shortly after CM Punk, ironically, we saw Daniel Bryan get the WrestleMania main event that CM Punk was so desperate for, but the push of Daniel Bryan being the face of the company, was short-lived, and we saw him come and go. And ultimately, John Cena would continually be pushed back to the top of the company. He would continually be placed as the face of the company as Vince McMahon continued to search for his next Hulk Hogan and white meat babyface. And now, under Triple H, we ironically have exactly the same thing, as Triple H is a guy who was brought up by Vince McMahon, coached by Vince McMahon. Most of the things he knows about wrestling booking and how to generate money in the wrestling business actually comes through Vince McMahon, and we are now pushing a white meat babyface in Cody Rhodes as the face of the company, and CM Punk still isn't the face of this company, even now, even after this comeback was initially received so well. So in 2011, we were desperate for CM Punk to become the face of the company. He stood for everything John Cena didn't stand for. He was also this guy who came from the independents and was known as being this great in-ring performer, although I never quite saw him as being this great in-ring performer. For me, he was never in the same conversation as Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels, whilst for others he was. For me, he was not. But it was undoubted. He was unbelievable on the mic. He was the number one talker in the company. He went toe-to-toe with John Cena and even went toe-to-toe with The Rock and won many of those exchanges before inevitably dropping the belt to The Rock for the championship so that the WWE can move forward with Rock and Cena for the second year in a row, which ultimately angered the fans even more because whilst we were clamoring for Punk once we got it and he was never the face of the company, we ultimately saw him turn heel. And ultimately, the fans began to reject WWE even more. And many could argue that they were even more desperate for CM Punk to receive that babyface push as the face of the company in 2014, just before he walked out. And that ended up going to Daniel Bryan, as I said, for a short period of time. So after the walkout for years and years and years, we would cheer for CM Punk as if he would be the solution to our issues, as if he was this straight talker who stood for everything that we wanted back in wrestling. And then he ended up eventually signing with AEW. AEW, a new startup company, in case you guys don't know, designed to provide WWE with competition that it never has done, despite the fact that it has signed many of the ex-WWE stars, with many WWE stars even opting to go to AEW instead of the WWE. This is a company owned by son of Jaguars owner Tony Khan. And Tony Khan's biggest acquisition was that of CM Punk. But it didn't last very long. CM Punk had political issues backstage. He was said to be difficult to work with, but there were mixed stories about how that went down. A lot of people said that other people backstage were difficult to deal with. Generally, AEW has had a lot of backstage problems, and Punk was deemed blameless by some, whilst the blame was pointed at Punk by others. There was enough doubt there for WWE to gamble on bringing back CM Punk in 2023 after a near 10-year hiatus. Now, for the most part, people were pumped about this. Not your AEW loyalists, obviously, when it comes to wrestling. There's a crossover between fans who watch one company and who watch another. And those crossover fans still felt like CM Punk did AEW dirty. They still felt like he was the problem at AEW, and they were not happy to see him return to the WWE, especially if they were those who were more aligned with AEW, hoping that AEW would grow and to provide WWE with that competition. And it was a huge loss to see CM Punk going from one company to another when he was seen as a massive player, a massive needle mover, and someone who was a huge part in making this war, which was never a war, never has been a war, never will be a war. But at least CM Punk was seen as someone who could make it competitive. But CM Punk took his ball and left and went to the WWE, although it did come via a backstage incident where Punk ultimately had to be fired for fighting with his colleagues physically, coming after CM Punk delivered a scathing shoot promo during a press conference. He went into a press conference and went into business for himself and decided to bury his colleagues, and then had a physical confrontation with those same colleagues. And then another colleague later on down the line when he ended up having a fight with Jungle Boy. So a couple of backstage confrontations ultimately led to CM Punk being let go by the company, but still WWE didn't think that was a big enough problem and decided to bring him into the WWE. Originally, everything Punk did hit, and there was huge hype for him going into the Royal Rumble. And at the 24 Royal Rumble, Punk was the favourite to win, but in that Royal Rumble, he was injured for 6 months. Now, injuries had been an issue with CM Punk during his AEW run anyway. He had shown signs of being injury prone. He was majorly injured on 2 different occasions, which ate into his AEW run and made it very, very stop-start. And immediately he was injured in his first televised match back in WWE. He had some house show appearances against Dominic Mysterio, but he was immediately injured, and that took him out of WrestleMania, where he was supposed to be in that main event with Seth Rollins. So not a very good start for Punk. During that summer, he was carried by Drew McIntyre on the mic. Drew McIntyre delivered microphone performances that no one really knew he had, and he managed to carry the feud for months, which CM Punk ultimately went on to win after losing the first match at SummerSlam. He won the next two, including a incredible Hell in a Cell match, which is the best work that CM Punk has done since 2013, better than anything he did in AEW. Obviously heavily aided by the fact that Drew McIntyre is an excellent worker, and CM Punk got to go on and win that feud. But during that time, it was clear that CM Punk was now missing something on the mic. His promos constantly seemed repetitive. To me, they reminded me of Edge, of Adam Copeland and his run during WWE, where it just seemed like the same thing over and over again. There's only so many times that you can pull the shoot promo cord and use somebody's real name and instigate shock value in order to sell your matches. And that's what CM Punk goes to constantly. And he did it a lot when it came to building up towards a WrestleMania main event. A WrestleMania main event which was confusing because it wasn't for a championship. Instead, it was more so for the custody of Paul Heyman. After teaming up with Roman Reigns and being a part of Roman Reigns' team at the Survivor Series, it turned out that Paul Heyman owed CM Punk a favour, but that favour turned out to be a very underwhelming one because all it was that CM Punk wanted Paul Heyman to walk him to the ring. That obviously caused issues between Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman. And when we went into WrestleMania, Heyman was conflicted. Whilst he still wanted to be tied to the Tribal Chief, he had to go to the ring with CM Punk because he promised him via this favour. And in the end, ended up turning on both of them and going with Seth Rollins. It was a great match. It was a great main event. But did it really make sense to put this in the main event spot, given that it wasn't for the championship? But it was CM Punk's dream to headline WrestleMania. Although when he talked about headlining WrestleMania, originally this hypocrite criticised WWE's two-night format and said to MVP, if you want to go to WWE, fine, go ahead, be my guest. Go and headline night one of a 4-night bargain bucket extravaganza or something, or words to that effect. I can't remember exactly what he said, but he was critical of the two-night WrestleMania and eventually was quite happy to main event one. Although when it came down to it, hypocrite Punk turned around and said, if it was down to me, I wouldn't even be main eventing the show. I would give it to the women. So the guy who was so desperate to main event WrestleMania walked out of the company a few years back because he didn't get to do it. Now gets the WrestleMania main event he doesn't deserve because it's not actually for the championship, but it's only being put in the main event slot because CM Punk was a guy who came into the company and made it clear that his dream was to main event WrestleMania, so it was handed to him as a gift. And once he received that gift, he turned around and complained and said that it should have gone to the women. This has been consistent with what CM Punk has done in constant press conferences. He's continuously praised women whilst ever praising a single man, and has been photographed with women over and over again on social media, despite being married to former wrestler AJ Lee. He has tied himself in particular to young girls in the company, has continuously been seen for no reason at all at the Performance Center in Orlando, has particularly tied himself to Cora Jade, who was eventually released by WWE, and that in itself is confusing given the upside that she probably had. But she was released by the company, but before she was constantly seen with CM Punk. And the background of that situation is the fact that Cora Jade would go with her dad and constantly go to CM Punk autograph signings, and he knew her from then. And suddenly he's out with her, he's at dinners with her, he's spotted in hotels with her, and this coincided with Cora Jade's wrestler boyfriend, Bron Breakker, son of former wrestler Rick Steiner from the Steiner Brothers, breaking up with Cora Jade during this period. You do the maths. I've done the maths myself. You can do the maths yourself and take what you can, make what you will of that particular situation. CM Punk is also constantly seen with Jackie, the backstage reporter. They're constantly on each other's social media. He's also seen with Roxanne, best friend of Cora Jade, and now CM Punk is often seen alone with Roxanne. He's been seen with Liv Morgan. He's also put over Liv Morgan recently, who's been injured, and said that she was the MVP of the company. She's been the MVP of the company since he's been there. He also has stated once Seth Rollins came out to confront him during a promo Why can't it be Rhea Ripley? Why can't it be Rhea Ripley? Now, this guy was previously known as a serial shagger. He plowed his way through the WWE roster and even ended up banging his high school crush, Lita, and dated her for a short period of time before dumping her for AJ Lee. But prior to that, there were many, many others who found their way into CM Punk's bed, and he deserves credit for that when he was in his 30s. To do it now as an old man with a wife, so an old married man with grey hair and a grey beard, doesn't quite hit the same as CM Punk, serial shagger, shagging all your divas in the 2000s. What a legend. To CM Punk, married man hanging around with teenagers. Doesn't quite hit the same, but that has been the story of CM Punk since his return. So overall, to summarize, we're talking about a guy here in CM Punk who said, I would never want to main event night one of a 4-night extravaganza, yet main evented night one of WrestleMania. We're talking about a married guy who constantly tweets about his wife whilst never giving her any children, yet spends all of his time with the hot young women at the WWE, which you might be listening to this and thinking, wow, that's cool. Why wouldn't you do that if you could? But like I said, he constantly tweets about his wife. He's an older guy now with the grey hair and the grey beard. If you're going to do it, why are you continuously posting up the pictures? And it's particularly odd that he's doing it with a girl who used to come with her dad to get his autographs. And she's even now, since been fired, talked publicly about how he's her best friend and how they meet up for dinners in Chicago and how she even meets up with his wife. It's almost like, actually, I'm not going to say that next sentence because I'm going to get myself in shit. But if you want me to say more, if you want me to speak about this more, because this genuinely is the tip of the iceberg, I'll be on the dirty sheets with Cav. Cav is a CM Punk defender, and I, as you guessed, am certainly not one. I used to be a big fan. I'm not anymore. This is a guy who tried to once sue me for a tweet, and that's irrelevant to my opinions, but he's also tried to sue his best friend. He's also tried to have a YouTube channel cancelled. He's constantly issued cease and desist letters when people give negative opinions about him. For me, he's a very, very oversensitive narcissist. He's somebody who will take any side if that side is where the money is. He doesn't actually stand for anything, which is why this is a completely different version of CM Punk in 2011, because in 2011, he's the guy that stood for everything that we wanted. He stood for us. He was supposed to be the voice of the voiceless, and that whole character and that whole promo was exactly what got him on side. He was the voice of change. He was the symbol of everything that we wanted wrestling to be and what we wanted it to move away from. And now he's the symbol of the opposite. He is TKO's puppet. He will go where the money goes. He will take any opinion that seems to be the popular one. And when it comes to wrestling fans in particular, that is usually a liberal one, which is why we have seen CM Punk supporting transgenders and abortion rights via multiple t-shirts that he's worn, because he feels like that will make him popular with the wrestling fan base, particularly the AEW fan base, who are seen to be more woke and more liberal, and CM Punk was looking to carry favor with them by wearing those t-shirts. I'm sure ultimately he stands for absolutely nothing other than where his bread is buttered and where he will receive the most money, which is why this guy this weekend will be going to Saudi Arabia after previously tweeting out to The Miz, go and suck a blood money covered dick. CM Punk will now be flying into Saudi Arabia to suck said blood money covered dick that he criticized other people for after previously making it clear that he would never go to Saudi Arabia. Guess what? CM Punk is now in Saudi Arabia. And leading up to the event, CM Punk was confronted with a live Q&A about the Saudi Arabia situation. And he then said, how can I hate Saudi Arabia? I've never been. Well, you had plenty to say about it before you signed with the company. But again, he is now going back on his word and again Triple H has this guy by the balls, because ultimately it's Triple H who decides if CM Punk main events night one of a 2-night WrestleMania, which he did. If you want to main event this WrestleMania, Punk, you're going to have to main event night one. If you're going to be with this company, Punk, you're going to have to go to Saudi Arabia. And there have been multiple wins for Triple H during this time, just when it comes to the overall booking of CM Punk. It cannot be argued by anybody that CM Punk's star has fallen. He is nowhere near the same level that he was when he came into the company. And a large amount of that falls on CM Punk's lap. This is a guy who, even at his peak, never got himself into peak condition. Whilst he can complain constantly, we complain with him that John Cena was the face of the company. John Cena genuinely looked like a superstar, and CM Punk never has. And it's nothing to do with the tattoos, but it's a lot to do with the wrinkly old face, the eye bags that he's never taken care of, the body that he's never gotten into shape, and just the general demeanor of CM Punk when it comes to putting him at the forefront of your company as a media figure. It just doesn't work. CM Punk is someone who's loved by wrestling fans, but he's never going to draw in that casual audience. When you see this guy, you see a guy who claims to be straight edge, but looks like he does more drugs than everybody. And I'm not talking about drugs that are going to enhance your body. I'm talking about crack cocaine and weed. CM Punk looks like he's on all of it when you look at the state of his old wrinkly face. And that's really been the problem when it comes to CM Punk. It's been him. It's been his look. It's been the fact that his matches haven't really been all that, despite the fact that people will tell you they have been. His comeback matches have mostly been underwhelming. He's had to be carried by his opponents in the ring. He looks slow. We already know that the guy is massively injury prone, so his matches haven't hit. And most significantly for me, his promos haven't hit, which is the main reason why you would bring CM Punk into the fold. CM Punk was seen as the number one promo guy in the company, but much like when Edge returned for his stint, it seems like the CM Punk magic has gone. He seems to me to be a guy who's very stale, who rehashes the same thing over and over again. And when he's in a feud that he needs to intensify, he hits the whole shoot promo, let's touch on reality button. Whereas John Cena touched on reality the one time when he copied the 2011 promo, the shoot promo, when he did it on SmackDown. And he timed it perfectly and absolutely annihilated Punk, and was more effective than Punk has been during his entire run, whilst copying Punk's promo from Punk's peak back in 2011, which absolutely, for me, castrated and annihilated this guy, because John Cena as a heel did it with pure facts. Nothing he did or nothing he said was a lie. CM Punk is TKO's bitch. He does do everything that they say. He does go against his values. He did main event night one at WrestleMania. He is going to Saudi Arabia. He is the guy there at every single autograph signing. And whilst he's happy to take the money for the autograph signing, he's the guy that sits there with the most miserable face, doesn't greet children, has recently been seen on video in Saudi Arabia pushing a kid out of the way who wanted a selfie, and is genuinely just a dick. So much so that CM Punk is the only person at WWE World and Fanatics at his autograph signings who has his own personal PA there shouting, "Do not touch him, do not speak to him, this is not a meet and greet. Get your photo and move on." So whilst this wasn't the case early on, and CM Punk was a guy who, for the first time since I've been following wrestling and have been traveling to WWE shows, CM Punk was actually willing to engage with fans at the hotel. Now we fast forward to 2025 and we are seeing the absolute real version of CM Punk, the prick, who was always a prick before, who was a prick in AEW and upset his peers, and is a prick now. And he's also a hypocrite, which is something that nobody leveled at CM Punk previously. But his hypocrisy now is something that he's absolutely soaked in, as we are now reaching the point where we are over 18 months into his very, very unsuccessful return to WWE, unless the only metric you're interested in is T-shirt sales and merchandise sales, which I admit CM Punk has done very well in because I have access to the numbers. That this is the guy who now is going into Saudi Arabia. This is the guy who's going to renew his famous feud of John Cena, and it has been a classic one in WWE historically. Cena versus Punk has been magic, it has been money, and they will resume that feud and wrestle for the final time in Saudi Arabia tomorrow. And we're going to cover it right here. We're going to look at the betting odds. We're going to look at the betting odds for every single match on the card. Before we do so, let me let you guys know that we're brought to you by MyBookie.ag. MyBookie is your place to bet on every sport, including the WNBA, MLB, golf, and of course your football futures as well. You can also bet on the FIFA Club World Cup. I'm doing shows daily for the FIFA World Club Cup over on the Soccer Gambling podcast. And it's also the place where you can bet on the WWE. I'm constantly asked, Billy, how do you bet on the WWE? And I know guys aren't talking about WrestleMania, Royal Rumble and SummerSlam. They're talking about pay-per-views like this. Well, you can head over to mybookie.ag and sign up and use the promo code SGPN for a 100% deposit match up to $1,000. Terms and conditions apply, but that's mybookie.ag and the promo code SGPN. Let me also tell you guys here about the Circa Ultimate Fantasy Football giveaway. Circa Resort and Casino in Las Vegas are giving away the ultimate football experience for a 12-person league to draft in Vegas. And be treated like VIPs during your stay. You'll get a limo ride to and from the airport and a 5K tab for Stadium Swim and a hotel stay for you and your 11 league mates. If you haven't been to Stadium Swim, you have to go. If you're into sports betting and you want to be around the sports book, Circa have an incredible sports book, and Stadium Swim is a one-of-a-kind place that you need to visit one time if you love sports betting. And you don't need to win this contest to actually stay there. We're aiding you here with 15% off any Circa property when you use the promo code SGPN15. But if you want to get involved and try and win this competition, it's your last chance to win. It closes on June the 30th. Head over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Circa to get involved here with the Circa Ultimate Fantasy Football giveaway with your chance to win. Go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Circa. One more time, that's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/CIRCA. Circa. Let me also utilise this pause to tell you guys about Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Best Ball Mania is happening all summer long, and they're giving away $50 million in prizes, including $2 million to first place. No waiver wire, no arguments about trade. Best Ball is the best way to play fantasy football. Underdog is also the best place to play Pick'em as well. So head over to Underdog Fantasy, sign up with that promo code SGPN, and you can claim your special pick and first-time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus credits. Head over to UnderdogFantasy.com and use that promo code SGPN. One more time, that's UnderdogFantasy.com and the promo code SGPN. And finally, you've heard us talk about Rhythm before, and obviously you now know they've dropped their game-changing feature called Power Trends. These are AI-detected patterns where Rhythm's model has consistently won and has a high ROI. Power Trends are updated daily, and they are exclusive to Rhythm. So no touts, no noise, just clean data-backed bets, and you can get involved by downloading the Rhythm app. Check out Power Trends and start betting smarter today. And to sweeten the deal even more, you are getting a 7-day free trial with the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. All you need to do is go to this link for your 7-day free trial. It's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm, and Rhythm is spelled RITHMM. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM, Rhythm. So let's move on and actually cover the betting portion of this show. I might actually have to put something in the description to tell people there are no betting picks, there are no leans in the first 30 minutes of the show. It is just me going off on CM Punk. And to be honest, as I said, that was watered down. That was the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more I could say about this guy. There's so many more personal stories that I could give out. There's so many stories from other wrestlers that I could give out, people that I've spoken to. He's just... Let's just move on from it. Let's move on from it as much as we can, because we have to cover his match next, where he is a significant underdog to beat John Cena. So not only does he have to go to Saudi Arabia, he has to lie on his back and look up at the lights whilst then taking a blood money covered dick when he goes back to his hotel. Maybe he is the 11-2 underdog to win the match, and John Cena is at 1-10. John Cena is in the midst of this ruining wrestling title run. It's more interesting to me how they get through SummerSlam, because it does look like later on in the night, Cody Rhodes is going to be the king of the ring. And then that sets up the rematch between Cody Rhodes and John Cena. Now, does John Cena beat Cody Rhodes again at SummerSlam? Is Cody Rhodes not the man to dethrone John Cena? Or does Cody Rhodes somehow lose at Mania, lose at SummerSlam as the king of the ring and number one contender, and then wrangle his way to a third title match later on in the year in December? Is that how we're doing things? Or do we give Cody the belt now, John Cena then takes a little break and then comes back as a babyface for the last 2 months. Is that what we're doing? I'm not sure, but I'm sure Cena wins this match, and I'm sure Cody's the king of the ring. Cody's the 1-10 favourite also to beat Randy Orton, and Randy Orton is also the 11-2 underdog, and I think these two are the clearest matches on the show. And the odds tell you that, which is why I think it's so ridiculous what passes for a wrestling news source these days, because WrestleVotes, who are supposed to be one of the more credible sources, came on and spoke about how they heard that CM Punk and that John Cena and Cody Rhodes were winning. That was their breaking news story. That was their spoiler. That was picked up by dirt sheets like Ringside News. They covered the fact that the spoiler was out. John Cena and Cody Rhodes were winning. So what they did is they got a massive load of traffic. They got a load of clickbait news headlines from every single wrestling news site, and millions of people use these, saying that John Cena, a 1-10 favourite, and Cody Rhodes, a 1-10 minus 1,000 favourite, were both winning on this show. And that passed for wrestling news that WrestleVotes will be credited for once those outcomes are correct, and they will be correct. Absolutely ridiculous what passes for wrestling news these days. So let's move on with other matches. The Queen of the Ring is next, and Jade Cargill is a 1-2 favourite to win this match against Asuka, who's available at around about 6-4. Different prices in different places, but I think this is set up for Jade Cargill to win. I think for me, the predictable outcome here would be Jade Cargill winning this, Jade Cargill winning the championship, and only holding it for a few seconds because Naomi would cash in on her. Naomi's the Money in the Bank holder. You could go in a different direction where Jade's about to win the belt and Naomi comes in and makes the match a triple threat match. It's just odd to me that if you go in the direction of Tiffany and Jade, that's two baby faces. I don't know if that really works. I don't know if the build-up works. I don't know what the promos look like heading into that match. Is that really a SummerSlam worthy match? It's two big stars, but it's two baby faces on paper. And how do they mesh together? How do they build up a match heading towards SummerSlam? What does that build-up look like? Is Naomi involved in it from the offset where she's teasing her Money in the Bank cash-in throughout the entire thing? That's really the main question marks that I have about it. But I do think Jade Cargill wins the King of the Ring, the Queen of the Ring rather. Although, if you look at Jade Cargill, King or Queen would be fine because she is a built, muscular woman. And I don't think she's muscular in an unattractive way either. But one thing I will say is that when you look at someone like CM Punk and you look at someone like Jade Cargill, you'd look at Jade Cargill and you'd think that she could kick the shit out of CM Punk. This woman is a real athlete, and CM Punk looks like a dude from the crowd who decided to wrestle. Whereas Jade Cargill looks stronger than many of the men, not just CM Punk, and looks like a genuine athlete and puts a lot of these men to shame. I'm talking about some of your top performers as well. I'm talking about Punk. I'm talking about Kevin Owens. It's not acceptable. I'm talking about Sami Zayn. It's not acceptable for them to have those bodies and those physiques when Jade Cargill's walking around like this and takes the effort to walk around like this. And it's not disgusting muscles. It's not like what we saw with Chyna, who obviously took things that made her look masculine in other areas where you have the big chin and everything else as well. Jade Cargill is an attractive woman with muscles. And I think the same could be said about Bianca and Charlotte to a lesser extent, but definitely Bianca and Jade more so than any of those two. So take notice, boys. This is what you should be trying to look like. You should be trying to look like Jade Cargill. And I think she wins this match. Rhea Ripley, I think, falls into the same category. Let's do her match next. She's the 3-10 favourite to beat Raquel Rodriguez. I think Rhea wins here, but this would not be the most surprising upset for me because there is some, you can get some legs out of Raquel Rodriguez winning this match with Roxanne Perez helping her, because I think inevitably what's going to happen is Rodriguez's tag belts are not going to be vacated through Liv Morgan's injury. I think they're going to be given to Roxanne. And Roxanne is going to come in and replace Liv, much like we saw earlier on in the year with Bianca and Jade Cargill, where we saw Naomi replace Jade Cargill when Jade mysteriously got injured. In the end, it turned out to be Naomi who did it. On this occasion, we're not going to tell that story because we saw Liv Morgan clearly injured inside the ring by accident. So that's not a possibility. But I think what we could see is someone come in and be an adopted tag team partner, which is what we saw before. And Raquel Rodriguez could cement herself as that person by getting involved in this match. Although Rhea Ripley doesn't lose a lot of matches. And Rhea Ripley's booking hasn't been particularly strong as of late. She ended up losing to Liv Morgan. She ended up actually vacating her championship via injury, but then she ended up losing to Liv Morgan when she was chasing the belt, and then eventually ended up winning that feud by winning the belt back on Netflix. But her run was short-lived because she lost the match to Io Sky for the really stupid reason that she was distracted by Bianca Belair appearing on guest commentary. She continued to look at Bianca Belair. She lost her focus, which is not the way you book your biggest main event talent. And Rhea Ripley's a much bigger star, I think, than people even give her credit for. We obviously hear that she gets a massive crowd response. Now, I'm not really in line with the whole Rhea Ripley thing. For me, I don't get it. For me, she does kind of look like a bit of a butch lesbian, although she does look a lot better with the longer hair. Great ass, great pair of boobs. I can't argue with that. Some people are aligned or not aligned with the whole tattoo thing. She's definitely an emo chick, and she definitely appeals to that emo demographic. But somehow she's got 6 million followers on Instagram, which is far more than some of the men. When you look at the likes of CM Punk and Cody, who's supposed to be the main two guys in this company, it's crazy to see how many people Rhea Ripley has on Instagram. So certainly she does have that emo crossover appeal. So certainly she is your biggest star in the women's division. And certainly that does mean she should be booked a bit better than she has been in recent weeks and months. So I think she needs a win, and that's why I think she gets one. But it wouldn't surprise me to see them do Rhea dirty again and have her lose here. Up next, we're looking at Sami Zayn versus Karrion Kross, where Zayn's a 1-7 favourite and Karrion Kross is available at 19-5. Now, I think Zayn wins, but this is where I'm telling you to bet on Karrion Kross. This is the underdog I would bet on, because Karrion Kross has all the upside in the world. He's one of those guys who's not been booked well. When you look at his size, when you look at the wrestling ability he has, when you look at his promo skills, when you look at the hype that he had returning to the company after he was an NXT champion who got booked like a unbeatable monster on NXT. He then moved up to the main roster. He was booked weirdly under Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon dressed him up in demolition bondage gear at one point, and eventually he was released. And the rumours backstage is that he was among the people who WWE had to release because he was anti-vax, and WWE had to show that all of their performances at one point were vaccinated to perform in certain cities in the US when all of that vaccine bullshit was rife and the rules were a lot stricter than they are now. Obviously, the whole thing has now gone away, and the conspiracy theories for the most part have been proven right about everything they said about COVID and the vaccines. But nobody is allowed to say that, so I'm not going to say that. Let's pretend let's pretend I didn't say that. But Karrion Kross was among those people who was said to not want to take the vaccine, was willing to be let go as part of it. It wasn't really anything to do with creative. But he was brought back to the company once all that stuff died down. But his booking has not been strong. And he's now gone into social media and done his own thing. Cut his own promos, tried to get himself over, tried to force WWE to make more of his T-shirt because his T-shirt sold out. And a lot of the stuff that he's done off his own back has been good, including creating his own videos to build up feuds he's not necessarily involved in. But he's managed to incredibly find a way to justify all the losses and to justify the way he's not been booked on TV and to align himself with some of the biggest stars in the company who've all wrestled him and all have beaten him, but all have gone on to career trajectories which has seen him go from babyface to heel. And he has taken responsibility for that. So despite the fact he lost the matches and lost the feuds, he's gone on to say the Karrion Kross effect from those matches was that he got inside their heads and turned them heel. So ultimately, whilst they won the battle, he won the war. That's very clever. And he's been very clever, and he does deserve to receive a push. But at the moment, he's a guy who doesn't even have a contract. Whilst he's under contract now, his contract runs out in September. And I know people that know him, and I've been told he hasn't even entered into talks. So that's concerning. So are they going to just utilize the Karrion Kross hype to give Sami Zayn a massive win? Because whilst the win over Karrion Kross wouldn't have previously been big because everybody's been beating him, at the moment to beat a Karrion Kross who's got loads of hype behind him would be a good win for Sami Zayn to get and to bounce back from being eliminated in the King of the Ring semi-finals, where he said he was desperate to win and desperate to eventually become the WWE champion. Whilst Karrion Kross is telling him he'll never be champion, which probably means that Sami Zayn will be champion. So if you're going to be champion, can you afford to take losses to the likes of Karrion Kross? Probably not. And Sami Zayn probably wins this match. And this is a place where Sami Zayn will be more popular than Karrion Kross, because I dare to speculate that if Karrion Kross and Sami Zayn had this match in the US, where Karrion Kross has actually been getting over, the crowd would be a lot more split. But as this is happening in Saudi Arabia, and Sami Zayn is a Muslim who's often come out here and spoken Arabic to the fans, I think Sami Zayn will be a safe babyface here with 80% of the crowd still behind him. But 20% of those insiders will still be behind Karrion Kross. And yes, Saudi Arabia does have insiders. We've heard it multiple times on multiple shows. But this is the place where Karrion Kross needs the win. This is where you need to pull the trigger on the push. This is where you need to look at Karrion Kross and look at Sami Zayn standing next to each other and say, this guy is bigger and he's better and he has more upside than this ginger guy who's never been in good shape and will never ever cross over to a mainstream audience. I would pull the trigger on Kross. And if WWE have any common sense, they will pull the trigger on Kross. And I'm going to pick Kross to win this match, even though I truly feel that Sami Zayn should win. But Sami Zayn for me is not a minus 700 favourite here in this spot. I think those odds are incorrect. And I feel the same way about the last match when it comes to Jacob Fatu being also a minus 700 favourite, with his opponent Solo Sikoa also available at 19-5. Now, my reasons for taking a sprinkle on Solo Sikoa here are simply the fact that this is the guy who's had the biggest career nosedive in the WWE since the start of the year. Don't forget, he was involved in a major match for the Ula Fala against Roman Reigns on the first episode of Raw on Netflix. And since then, he has dropped and he's dropped and he dropped to the point where he wasn't even involved at WrestleMania. This is the guy who took over the Bloodline when Roman Reigns was taken off TV. This is the guy who main evented SummerSlam 2024. This is a guy who was involved in a major feud with Roman Reigns when it became Roman Reigns' Bloodline plus CM Punk at Survivor Series War Games versus Solo's Bloodline. Solo was the leader of that. Solo then went on to face Roman Reigns for the Ula Fala. Solo has been involved in Bloodline Civil War stuff since then, but it's clear that Jacob Fatu is the star, which is why Jacob Fatu was on WrestleMania and why Jacob Fatu won the US title and why he defends it here in this match. Jacob Fatu, as I said, is the star, but Solo Sikoa desperately needs the win. And if you're going to get any mileage out of this feud anyway, when it comes to Wrestling Booking 101, it's Solo Sikoa who needs the win. At the moment, we have JC Mateo as the only other member of Solo's Bloodline, because Jacob's now out of it, so we're down to 2. But there are always other Samoans that you can bring in. The list is endless. The latest rumor is that Hikuleo, if that's how you say his name, will be the next one coming into the storyline and will be a part of Solo's group. So the fact that you have this endless line that you can bring in means that Solo should be able to win this, to keep this feud going, to set up people for Jacob to take on. Now, the only thing that concerns me was Jimmy Uso getting involved this week. Now, that could mean Jimmy Uso just levels the playing field and we keep this going with Jacob defending the belt successfully on this occasion. Or maybe even Jimmy might turn to give that Bloodline real strength, to set up a mission impossible for Jacob Fatu, who we know that they want to push. We know that they're high on Jacob Fatu. So it's not beyond the realm of possibility. It's not inconceivable that Jacob will run through all of these and be a priority project as he chases down his return match with Solo and wins the belt back. So we could be giving Jacob 3 or 4 months of story here by him losing, having to run through this heel machine, this group, before getting his belt back and ultimately beating Solo again. Or we could just have Jacob lose and move him on to other things, because they do see him as a main event player, and eventually he could be a world title contender, and he could be someone for Cody to face if Cody's winning that belt back. Maybe he could turn heel again, or maybe he could even be an opponent for Cena if Cena's keeping the belt for a while longer as well. So there's loads of different directions that you can go in. And with all that said, I do think the 1-7 minus 700 on Solo is too short. Closing out with a lock on this show, I'm going to dismiss both of the 1-7 favourites. So I actually think there's underdog value on both Solo and Karrion Kross. And I'd actually be surprised if one of them didn't win, because that's where I think the underdog win lies. I'm not thinking there's going to be more than one underdog winner, though, on this show. This is going to be very much paint by numbers booking. It usually is for Saudi Arabia. What you expect to happen will happen. So I think the king and queen of the ring will come through, but Cody Rhodes is obviously too short. Jade offers up some value at 1-2 minus 200. I think John Cena goes and defends the championship successfully, but he offers up no value at 1-10 minus 1,000 either. So that leaves me with Rhea Ripley, who I previously said was too short. But Rhea Ripley, for me, is the only real possible parlay piece to tie together here with Jade Cargill. Now, I will say this isn't the most confident lock I've given out, but I have sold myself on it more as we approach the end of this show and giving out the lock. This is the lock part. Rather than going down a direction where we make this a 3-person parlay and we go with the predictable one of Cody, Cena, and Jade Cargill. And I've decided not to do that. I've decided to simplify it and make it a 2-legged parlay for better odds. And I'm going to gamble on Rhea Ripley, who ironically I'm less sure about than I am Jade Cargill. Jade Cargill for me wins, and I love her at 1-2 minus 200. Rhea Ripley for me too short at minus 300 because I do have an angle for her losing this match. But ultimately, Rhea Ripley is hugely popular all around the world. She's going to be popular in Saudi Arabia, and she has not been booked strongly as of late. So I think you can get to Roxanne being Raquel's tag team partner without having her interfere in this match. I think you can compensate for that later. I think here you can just pretty much do a one-on-one table match, or maybe even you have Roxanne interfere and we find out who's going to be helping Rhea Ripley. Because if you're going to have Roxanne Perez helping out Raquel Rodriguez, at some point you're going to have somebody helping out Rhea Ripley. Are we going to go down the path of Rhea Ripley being Nikki Bella's tag team partner in the future? For me, that's a very odd pairing, but I think Rhea Ripley has suffered too many losses this year. This is a woman who, as I said, has 6 million followers on Instagram. She's absolutely massive. She has crossover appeal. Whether she's your cup of tea or not, I think Rhea Ripley's great. I certainly won't kick her out of bed. I just don't think that she's as unbelievable as some people will tell you that she is. And they'll tell you that she's the most unbelievable and most beautiful woman in the world and that she's incredibly talented, and her matches are not great. Her matches have not been good because they're very difficult to book. She's supposed to be a monster, but she's a babyface, so she has to sell. So since she's been a babyface, her matches have been a little bit of a mess. It's been really hard to get the psychology right. Her mic skills are not improving. Rhea Ripley's mic skills at this point, for someone who receives the level of push and the TV time that she receives, her being heavily involved with the Judgment Day, whether it be being in it or feuding against them, her mic skills should be better. And looks are very subjective. As I said, some people will tell you that this is the hottest woman on the planet. I don't believe that, but I also wouldn't kick her out of bed. So I'm somewhere in the middle of all of that conversation. I'm somewhere in the middle when it comes to everything when it relates to Rhea Ripley. But at the end of the day, you cannot argue with the numbers. Obviously, this is a gambling podcast. Everything that we do on all the other shows is data driven. There's obviously an element of gut handicapping involved. And in a day and age where data is so widely available, it's ultimately your gut handicapping skills that differentiates you from the others, I believe. But the data here tells you that Rhea Ripley is a massive star. The data tells you that there's only a limited amount of bad booking that she can take before she loses some steam. There's only a certain number of matches that Rhea Ripley can actually lose. And all of that has led me to taking Rhea Ripley as a parlay piece in this lock parlay. So your lock here is at 1 to 3 minus 300 on Rhea Ripley. It's a two-legged parlay. 1 to 3 minus 300 Rhea Ripley, combined with Jade Cargill to be the Queen of the Ring at 1 to 2 minus 200. And 1 to 3 and 1 to 2 combined comes up at even money. Even money comes out at plus 100 US odds. That's it for me. Good luck with all your bets as always. And thanks for listening.